Hey everybody, my name is Jackie Crawford and I help struggling mamas go from drama to dinner. Today we're freezer cooking and I am making some deconstructed cabbage rolls. Cabbage rolls are fabulous, but they take so much time, so we're not going to roll them up. We're just going to chop everything up and put it all together in a casserole dish. We're going to have some for dinner tonight and some for in the freezer for another dinner later. So let's get started. First I have a whole cabbage, a nice big one. We're going to need 4 tablespoons of olive oil. I've got 2 pounds of ground beef, and if you want to know how I got 50% off of this one, that's Recession Proof Your Pantry, tip number 17. Check it out above. I've got 2 large onions, 2 cans of diced tomatoes. You'll need half a bulb of garlic cloves. This is about 8 or 9 garlic cloves. 4 teaspoons of tomato paste. I have mine in this jar that I've already used some and put them in here. 2 tablespoons of dried parsley and a teaspoon of black pepper. 2 teaspoons of salt and 4 cups of cooked rice. So let's get started. So here I have 4 cups of water and 2 cups of rice, dried rice, and I'm going to set this on the stove and bring it to a boil. Make sure you have a lid. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to turn it down to 1 or low, and I'm going to cover it and let it sit for 20 minutes. Make sure you read your package of rice to see how to cook it. Now I'm going to peel off the outer leaves of my cabbage because they're dirty. They've got pesticide on them. So now I've removed all the bad spots from my cabbage. I'm going to chop it into small pieces that are bite-sized. I have my pot on the stove and the water is boiling. I happen to have this insert that's got a strainer. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to put my cabbage into this so I can submerge it down into the water, and when I'm done blanching, I can pull it right out. If you don't have one of these, then just scoop it out with a spoon. Turn your cabbage upside down so that the stem end is at the top. It has a hard core that goes down in, so you'll want to just cut straight down on your cabbage. Straight through. There's some bigger pieces here in the middle, and that's the core. I'm going to do this on the other side. And see, I've made a wedge, so it's smaller on this end than it is at the base. That's because the core is in the center. So I'm going to cut around the core, and this is what we've got. Now I'm going to cut in bite-sized pieces. You could do shreds or squares. It comes right apart just in shreds like this. So now I have some bite-sized pieces about like this. When you get down to the end, you could turn it over on its side. That might make it easier to cut. Now everything goes right into the pot. Now I'm going to blanch my cabbage, which will take about 3 minutes. My rice has come to a boil, and now I'm going to reduce the temperature down to number 1 or low, and I'm going to cover it. I'm going to let that sit for about 15 minutes. Now I'm going to cut up my onions. Cut off the top, and then cut around the edges on both sides, and then you can peel away the outside. There's a little papery part right here, so I just went around the edge and cut that right off. Like we did with the cabbage, I cut beside the root end here, and again on the other side, and then cut around the stem. We're just going to chop this. Chop one way, then turn it around, even it up, and chop the other way. Curl your fingers in, keep your fingertips safe from the knife. Now, if it's too big, you can take your knife, this is a chef's knife, and chop. There's a rocking motion. My cabbage is done, and so I'm just going to run some cold water on it because we're going to continue cooking. Now I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of olive oil to my pan, and I'm going to place it on the stove on medium high or number 7, and I'm going to cook my onions. The thing about freezer cooking is that instead of just making 1 meal for dinner tonight, I'm making 2 meals or 3 or 4 or however many you want to make. But it only adds a few more minutes to your time to make 2, and so it's well worth the time to do freezer cooking. My pot is popping and ready for my onions, so I'm going to fry up my onions now. Now I have my 2 pounds of ground beef that I'm going to add to the onions that have turned translucent. Translucent means that you can see through them. Now I'm going to use my wooden spoon with a flat edge, and I'm going to chop it up just a little bit. Keep chopping and turn it over regularly so it gets brown on all sides. Next, I'm going to chop up my garlic. I'm just going to take all my garlic cloves off of my bulb. I keep my trash can right here to my left so I can just slide my trash off right into the trash can. That makes things really easy. Now, to get the paper off, you want to take the flat edge of your knife and mash it. So I have 8 garlic cloves and a couple tiny ones. And then this outer paper peels right off. This also releases allicin, which is a fabulous chemical in the garlic that's healthy for you. It's really good for your body. My rice is done. It should be nice and dry on the bottom and nice and fluffy. Don't forget to chop up your hamburger and stir it around. So now we're going to mince our garlic. So that means to chop it really, really small. Make sure to curl your fingers under. And then when you go back across it, use your knife to do the rocking motion and make small pieces. You can go from a different direction. Stir up your ground beef. Now I've got my garlic. I'm going to add that. I spread out my beef in the middle and put the garlic in there in the middle so that it could cook better and faster. I've got my 2 tablespoons of parsley, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and 2 teaspoons of salt, all in this glass container. And I mixed it together, and I'm going to add that. Plus I'm going to add my 2 cans of tomatoes and 4 teaspoons of tomato paste. Now stir it together until it's all incorporated so that you don't have pockets of one ingredient. Here's what it looks like all mixed together. Now I have half of my cabbage in this large bowl. I'm going to add half of the rice and half of the meat mixture, and I'm going to mix it all together. Half of the cabbage, half of the rice, and half of the meat mixture. And make sure you get some of the juice. Now you're just going to mix it together. Your rice will probably be a little stuck together, so that's what you're going to have to start with. And then go from the bottom and turn it over. Now it's all mixed together. Now I'm going to take my casserole dish and add my mixture. This is a loaf pan. It's just me and my son, so we can eat a smaller portion. If you have a family of 4, you can fill up a 9 by 13 pan. Using the same bowl, I'm gonna add all the rest of the ingredients. I am very frugal, so I scrape until everything is out of there. And last, the cabbage. Make sure you break up all clumps of rice that you find and mix well. On my cabinet over there, I have my 2 casserole dishes. Actually, it's 1 casserole and 1 loaf pan, but it's only me and my son, so we need a smaller portion. So for the other 2 portions, I'm going to divide them in half and put them in a freezer bag. This is a gallon-sized freezer bag. 4 cups is a quart, and this is a lot more than 4 cups of cabbage roll mix. So I'm going to use a gallon-sized bag, freezer bag. And make sure you label it first before you fill it. So lay down your mix. You want to make sure it's cool when you put it in the freezer bags. You want to start on one side and seal it. And mash it down until it's flat. Now, it still has some air in it. So I'm going to open one side. And you can use a straw to get this air out. Or if it's all the way full and you've mashed it down, you should be able to get all the rest of the air out. And make sure it's sealed well. So now I have that done. And the same thing for the other one. I'm going to leave the air hole there while I'm mashing everything down to make it flat, so it'll freeze better and it'll freeze faster. And this won't take up so much space in your freezer. Make sure you get all the air out. Open that pocket up. And seal it up. This one I've covered with tin foil, and I'm going to freeze it. But first I'm going to put it in this jumbo bag. Now I've already used this one time before, and my grandmother always used to wash her Ziploc bags. They're expensive, and you can save money by washing them. Just make sure that they don't have any holes in them. Make sure you get all the air out. This just adds another layer of protection to your meal. So here we go. Now I can freeze this and I don't have to worry about it. If it's still a little warm, put it in the refrigerator first. You don't want to heat up your freezer. I have 3 freezer meals. I'm going to put them in the refrigerator and let them come to refrigerator temperature before I put them in the freezer. This one is my dinner for tomorrow. So for a small family of 2, I have 4 meals. For a larger family, you'll need a 9 by 13 pan, and this should make 2. 1 for now and 1 for later. When you get ready, make sure to take it out the night before you're going to cook it and set it in the refrigerator to thaw. When you're ready to cook, bake at 350 degrees for 45 minutes. This is Jackie from Motherwize. And remember, dinner's at 6.